Um,
Welcome to a new episode of Seated Around the House, a podcast for housing professionals brought to you by the Professional Development Committee of the Southeastern Association of Housing Officers. My name is Wesley Todd, and I will be your host and moderator for today. Today's topic is RELI 2026. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by the host and guest on this podcast are solely their own and do not reflect the views, positions, or policies of any college, university, employer, or professional association. All discussions are intended for general information, education, and dialogue. No podcast content should be considered official communication or policy guidance from any institution. Any examples discussed have been generalized, de identified, or fictionalized to protect privacy. Participation in this podcast is voluntary, and the host reserves the right to edit recordings for clarity, privacy, and legal compliance. And with that being said, I turn it over to your RELI co-chairs, Natalie and Scott. Y'all take it away.
Excellent. Go ahead, Natalie.
I've kind of already introduced myself. I'm the director of residence life here at Florida Gulf Coast University in sunny Fort Myers, Florida. Scott?
And hello, I'm Scott Roush. I am the Senior Director for Resident Sorority and Fraternity Life at Emory University in sunny, today, Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, so we're here to talk about RELI and how to apply and what people can expect. Um, I think it's really important that we all know our own strengths, and I'm going to own right now that I am struggling with technology and where Zoom has moved some share buttons. So, can anybody help me? I've
I
gone
got
to,
it.
huh? Oh, I got
Uh,
it.
you found it? Okay.
Yep, there we go. Can everybody see the? All right, yes, awesome. All right, well, then we've already done this, so we'll skip this one. There we go. So a little bit about Scott and myself. I was a relay participant back in 2010 where we went to Duke. And so it's super exciting to have been a participant. Then I was also a faculty member at the University of Miami with Liz and Katrina as our co-chairs. And I had my own faculty cluster. And then now I get to be co-chair of this experience. And I think it's an amazing one. So that's a little bit about me. Scott.
Yeah, and I did not participate as a participant, but I was faculty for RELI in 2019 at the University of South Carolina in Columbia, and had the wonderful experience of working with two former presidents of CHO, and really enjoyed my experience, and so I'm glad to be back and also really excited to go to Raleigh for our final summer there, and excited for next summer in Boone at App State.
All right, so what is RELI? So RELI stands for the Regional Entry Level Institute, and so it's a 5-day intensive experience. It's different from a concert or a concert. It's very different from a concert. It's different from a conference because if you don't feel like going to a conference session or getting up early, no one really says anything to you, right? Well, with an institute, everybody is in 4-person clusters and they're fairly intimate. So if you do not show up to the first thing, your faculty leader is going to know, and they're going to reach out to you and be like, "Hey, where are you at? You hanging out in the residence hall?" So the participants will attend sessions facilitated by senior professionals in housing and residential life. If you all haven't seen who our faculty are, there's going to be a slide much later. But essentially, it's kind of the best of the best in terms of CHO leadership and leaders back on their campus. We gave each of them a content area that we feel like they're going to bring a lot of expertise in. And so we're really excited about this year's crop of RELI faculty. In RELI, you'll get to kind of assess your current skill levels and devise a professional development plan. You will learn practical information that will, take you from surviving to thriving as a mid-level professional. And then participate in that one-on-one. There is a fair mix of time where you are in your cluster with your faculty leader. We are the big group of about 40 with 36 participants. And then again, kind of that one-on-one mentoring sessions that you'll get with them. I think Scott and I have maybe gotten a little off track with the slides that we did at CO. So I think that's what this is. But essentially, these quotes and RELI participants are from the most recently RELI last summer. And so just wanted to kind of to have you all hear it from the horse's mouth in terms of things that they liked about the RELI and how much it set them up for success for that next year.
Yeah, and I think that, yeah, these two slides really do highlight, I think, where if you're reading the quotes, you'll see that the impact isn't just in the content, but also in just the cohorted experience. I think what I really loved from my experience is not that just the clusters got tight, but I think the entire group got tight. And my cluster, unfortunately, none of them either work in the region or they're not in higher ed anymore, but there's a large contingent of folks who were participants in my RELI who have now ascended up through the leadership ranks, and they are still very, very tight and get together. The RELI social that happens on the first night of CHO, they really do love to get together and take the picture of their cluster or their group. And so I think that's one of the things that I really love about this intensive experience is that it's not just about content, it's also about relationship building and networking in a way that I don't think we can see in any other sort of experience that's offered.
And to Scott's point about the cluster, even though my RELI experience was back in 2010, so a long time ago, right? Like we still have relationships with the people. And so many of you may know EJ, who was the past treasurer. He and I went to RELI that same year and made those connections way back then. And these relationships still show up in your life later, more present day.
Yeah, so this is just the timeline of the application. So the application deadline for participants is March 27th. And then Natalie and I will get together and review applications and select our folks and notify folks on April 17th. And then the RELI dates are June 9th through the 13th. And participants can start arriving on the 8th, but and events will sort of conclude around 1:30 on the 13th. And the real reason we tell you that on the 13th is that it is important that you're there till the end. It's just as important the end as the beginning. And so we want to make sure that as you're making your travel arrangements that you're thinking about leaving sort of maybe in the later afternoon or early evening so that you don't miss any of the things that go on that Saturday morning. The institutional cost for RELI, of course, is $300. And of course, this is different than travel and meals on your own. One of the great things about RELI, and actually I think about CHO in general, is that a lot of times when you come to a CHO event, for the most part, we feed you. And so there are a couple of meals on your own. And so that will be a little bit of an expense that you'll have to incur, but is only one or two, I think maybe two at the most of the week. The rest of the breakfast, lunch, and dinner are covered as part of your registration fee and as part of the program. There are scholarships from CHO, and so check with your state association for scholarship opportunities, and then that we'll understand how that goes. And then again on the 17th, you'll get a notification. It'll look very similar to this white square that tells you what it looks like when you are accepted.
If you are concerned about the $300, definitely go ahead and apply. And then, as Scott mentioned, there are scholarships, and sometimes where there's a will, there's a way. Other groups can provide transportation or things like that. And so don't let the fee deter you from applying, definitely. All right, so with the application, there are some essay questions. So what are you applying for RELI and what makes you stand out as a candidate? When I went through RELI, my application process, I had a very non-traditional housing background. And so part of the reason why I wanted to come to RELI is I was never an RA. And so I had only had about 2 to 3 years housing experience. And so I really talked a lot about that. And so what makes you specifically unique, and what is going to have, what is RELI going to do for you that you can really use this experience to kind of propel you along your housing and residence life journey? Describe the impact you anticipate RELI will have on you personally and professionally, and then what are your professional goals for the next 3 to 5 years? We also would like a resume in terms of making a decision about who we select, and then you're going to need a letter of support from your director, and then a letter of support from your direct supervisor. So we really want to make sure that everybody at your institution is kind of behind you participating in this experience. We know it's really hard to disconnect from our own campuses, but your institution should kind of be able to figure out a way where they're not reaching out to you. We really don't want you to be distracted by stuff going back on campus. We want you to be able to fully kind of immerse yourself in this experience. It's really important that people understand only the first 3 applicants from every institution will be considered. And that's not because we don't want a healthy applicant pool, but sometimes, you know, if there's a big group from UCF and UCF has 6 people applying, sometimes they all start to sound the same. And sometimes the recommendation letters, the support letters, things get lost because they all are from the same school and it all starts to sound the same. So, and also we want a wide representation of institutions. And so if we picked a lot of people from the same school, that wouldn't help us kind of meet that goal.
Yeah, so what do you expect when you get there? So these are, this sets of bullets are really what the week is going to feel like. So you'll have cluster time, which will be time with your faculty member, and there'll be four folks in a cluster. And so you'll have a meeting that's just the 5 of you. You will have one-on-one time with your faculty. There will be several roundtable discussions, which will be on various topics around different things that might be happening, either current events or trends that are happening in the field, things that we think that might be necessary for you to not only get your own perspective, but a faculty perspective or your peers' perspective, right? Speed mentoring is really about trying to get you some time with the other faculty members and Natalie and I. So, you know, you might connect with your faculty member in one particular way, but you might really want to have questions about other things between other people. So we'll have, you know, us sitting at different tables for you to come and have quick conversations with us. We'll do some case studies over time around different things that are applicable to you. There'll be downtime to bond. We'll get more into that in a second. There'll be time to explore Raleigh and NC State. And then we will have, for those of you that like to get up early, and I will say that it is a long day. So I would say if you're a workout in the evening kind of person, that's going to be a little bit challenging just because of the way the schedule is built. But we have built some time into the schedule for those of you that enjoy getting active and being active in the early part of the schedule. So there'll be some morning optional workouts. Or if you're not in that kind of thing, no one's going to hold you accountable for that unless you have an accountability buddy set up in your own group. And so no one's going to be taking attendance at the optional morning workouts. No, this is you again.
All right. So what you can expect is, you know, pre-institute communication. So you will get together with your faculty leader and there'll be some icebreakers. There'll be some time for team bonding. You will also get to talk about your skit. So that either causes a lot of folks great anxiety or they get really excited about it. If you go back to the CHO Facebook page, there were videos of the skits from last year. And essentially the skit is an opportunity that you get to introduce your faculty member, you all, and kind of what you want your group to be known for, right? So maybe you're group 8 and you want everybody to know how great group 8 is. So you get to do your skit. You can always clearly ask Scott and I questions about the experience, but once you get that faculty member, that's someone who's a little closer to you that you can kind of ask those other questions and start developing that relationship. Already went ahead and talked about the pre-meeting with the cluster advisor, and then you'll do some goal setting. You know, what do you really hope to get out of this experience? Are you thinking, you know, I did the housing thing for grad school. I'm entry-level housing. I don't know if residence life is for me. You know, I'm kind of interested in facilities or housing operations. or I know that this is really where I want to be. How do I get to that next mid-manager place? I'm struggling with my supervisor or my supervisees, kind of doing some of that goal setting to help you make the most out of this experience.
Yeah, and so these will be the topics that'll be covered. These will be the official topics that'll be presented on. And I think either in the next slide, or I think it's the next slide, we'll let you know who the faculty are and which ones are presenting. But we'll do some work on assessment, some work on budget and budgeting, crisis management, facilities, HR and legal, occupancy management, professional development, advocacy, community and excellence, and then supervision. And then if Natalie wants to go to the next slide. These are the folks who'll be presenting these things to you. So I don't know how, I'll do half, Natalie, and then I'll call. So we'll have Colleen Arnett, who is an assistant director of housing operations at Bellarmine University, who'll be doing our professional development session. Sarah Butler, associate director at Florida State University, who will be doing assessment. Tyler Gailey, who is the director of residence life at Wake Forest, who'll be doing HR and legal. And Heather Grayick, who is the associate director of residential facility operations at the University of Tampa, who will be doing facilities.
And then we've got Crystal Harvey, the assistant vice president of housing and residence life at High Point. She was on host committee this past year, so you may have seen her. We've got Kenzel Hill, assistant director for VCU. He's going to do budget, also on host committee. Jason Ingrayo, he is the current director of housing assignments and occupancy management. He will be doing occupancy, makes sense. Caitlin O'Keefe, assistant director for residential programs and services at the University of Georgia, crisis response. Caitlin was also on host committee. And then Christian Robinson, associate director of residence life, University of South Carolina. He will be presenting on advocacy and community excellence. And he was an award winner at CHO. So we have an amazing group of people that will be working with you that week. So we work hard, right? With long days, and then we also, play hard. And so we will have some time where you can explore Raleigh. We'll have some time where we explore Raleigh as a group. So for instance, one of the dinners, that's when you can go out with all the participants. If the participants choose to go out, that's a dinner on your own. But we've also got some fun nights planned. Last year we went to Dave and Buster's, and people stayed. Like, we were asking the bus driver, can we actually extend this? That's how much fun people had. Dinner was provided. You got a set amount of tickets that you could play the games. So we've got some things planned for you all where you'll get a taste of what it's like to be at NC State, but you'll also get a taste of what it's like to be in the city of Raleigh, which I did not have a lot of experience with, but I loved it.
Yeah, and then, there are a couple of things. I think we talked a little bit about this before, but after you leave RELI is almost just as important as being at RELI, right? It's really about the connection. Well, this middle picture is of a link that you will get as part of your participation, which links you to all of the other folks who participated in RELI over the course of the time that it has existed. You'll get the ability to share experiences that only you will have, and you'll be able to connect with folks in the field. And, it's also really, really great because even if the folks leave the field or leave the region, you're still connected with them and you still have this bonding experience. And I'll tell you, one of the really cool things is that although Natalie and I did not do RELI together, we did do a very similar experience called the Middle Managers Institute through NASPA. And we were in the same cohort group and have remained friends and colleagues ever since. And it's part of one of the exciting reasons about getting to work together now for RELI is that we've been doing this, we've been together for as colleagues for a long time. And so, this picture at the top, which is the group of the cohort that was last summer, seeing one of the things that unfortunately in this meeting that you didn't get a chance to see was that we had a lot of the cohort come back and they were in our presentation in Winston-Salem, and we're very, very excited about talking to the folks. And so I think that's one of the things that again will happen. So just as an FYI, if you do get selected, we are going to ask you to come back in Baton Rouge and be with me and talk. Natalie will roll off, but you'll be with me and be able to talk about your experience this past summer. And it's just one of the things that I think, again, even though I'm a few years removed from my faculty experience, I still really do look back on it with fond memories and have a lot of experience that I use today still when talking with staff. But also can reach out to my faculty colleagues at any time and ask the question because we got to spend that week together. So it's not just about the 5 days that you're spending in Raleigh, but about the lifetime of memories you'll make there and be able to expand upon them when you leave.
So what I held to the screen, just to give you some context, but it's Scott and I in our MMI cluster by the UT Rock. We got to go paint it, and that was a very cool experience. So
very much so.
Would you say?
I said very much so.
Yeah. All right, so these are just some fun pictures of us at the airport, leaving Raleigh, our Dave & Buster's experience, things like that. So again, as much as you will have time that you need to kind of lock in, as people say, we will have a good time as well. So here are some more just quotes and kind of words about what Realize meant to people. I feel like we've elaborated on it fairly, so we'll kind of go through this quickly.
And then lastly, it's go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay. If you all want to scan the QR code, it'll pull you up directly to the application, or you can also find it on the CHO site. Did you want to say something, Scott?
No, that was what I was going to say. So I think that's the last slide. So I will say, like, if you are interested in asking us any questions now, we are happy to either answer questions in the chat if that's where you'd like to put it, or if you want to either raise your actual hand or your proverbial electronic hand, we will call on you and do our best to answer the questions. All right. Is it Shantanika?
Yes, Shantanika. Hi, good to meet you both. I just have a quick question. Do you all have any hotels in the area that are carrying group discount rates for RELI for those who might be selected to attend?
So you get to stay in the residence halls.
Oh, awesome.
Yes. Yep. So staying in the residence halls is part of the $300 fee. So you will get to stay in their graduate housing, and it is essentially an apartment, and you'll stay there with 3 other people. You will get your own room, but there is a common living room within that apartment as well as a common kitchen, and then you'll share a bathroom with one other person. And then NC State does an amazing job of hosting us. So there's a laundry facility in the building if for whatever reason you want to, wash your clothes. They feed us all the time. And so there was a snack room that was just set up to do snacks. And so everything that you would like is there. They host us from Monday to Saturday. However, getting in and out of Raleigh can be a little challenging. So if you need to come in the day before or leave the day after, as long as NC State knows, they are pretty good about accommodating those travel needs. So yep, so that is all taken care of in the $300 fee.
Awesome. Thank you so much for providing that information.
Yeah.
No problem. Janelle.
I think you started to answer this question, but 2 things. One, if we have any airport recommendations or like airports in the area that we should be traveling into, and if there's going to be a shuttle or bus that takes us to and from the airport, just because I'm thinking about the cost and Ubers potentially and what that would look like. But I think you kind of started to hint at this response.
Yeah, so Raleigh is the airport that you would fly in and out of. I don't think that there are any closer airports that would make more sense. And then Uber is how people got from the airport to NC State. A lot of times you will create relationships with, thank you, Wesley Todd, for putting the airport code. A lot of times you will create relationships with people. And so, sharing Ubers or things like that in terms of how to get back to the airport is something else that people also did. And then some people did drive. And so you could also ask your new housing friend to give you a ride back to the airport.
And a quick use of the Google machine tells me that the distance from campus from the airport is about 12 miles. So it's not a terrible far trip. In terms of Ubers, it's not like you're going to take an hour Uber or something.
Yeah, it's not expensive. And then if we do any nights out on well, we will do a night out on the town, the university will provide that transportation. If you opt to do something on your own or with other people nights out on the town, then you would need to provide your own transportation.
Other questions?
Sorry, I have one more. This is Shantanika. In the event that you're not able to get a letter from, let's say, your direct supervisor or your director, is there a good substitute?
That's a great question. I don't know if I have the answer to.
So the way that Scott and I are kind of handling that are on a case-by-case basis. And so, Shantanika, if you want to have kind of a side conversation with us, we can definitely do that. We would need someone from your institution to kind of speak on your abilities. And so that would kind of be a conversation for he and I, as well as yourself, about who you feel like could highlight the things that you're going to bring to RELI, as well you can kind of fit this in. And people also come to RELI at interesting points in their career. And so sometimes people are coming knowing that they're going to leave their current institution, right? And so we've had people that have kind of been in between positions or people that are searching. So he and I understand that, again, people kind of come to RELI at all various points of the career. So it would just be a side conversation.
And I think too, the big piece of that letter is really, it's about highlighting what the experience could do for you, but it's really also about knowing that your institution is aware that you're coming. And so, I think if we need to have a conversation about who that person is that needs to be able to write that letter for you, then we could definitely have it.
Okay. And will y'all's emails be provided to us, or have they already been provided?
I
In the chat.
Thank you so much.
Or Wesley Todd also reminding us there is a specific RELI email at reli@cho.org. So you can reach out to us there as well.
Zaria, is that right? I want to make sure I pronounce it.
Zaria.
Zaria, okay.
Yeah, Zaria.
So close.
I'm getting over a cold. But if we were to drive, do we have to pay for like a parking pass or anything?
You don't. NC State is real strict about their parking though. And so we would just make sure that you follow that process, because last time they were giving people tickets if they weren't parked correctly. So they do not mess around.
Very cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Aaron.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? My question is, understanding that this is a competitive process, and I think there's maybe one or two other professional development institutions going at the same time. Will there be a waiting list if people do decline?
Yes. The short answer to that is yes. Yeah. And I would say, like, I have had several staff members on both sides of the RELI experience where they've applied multiple times for participants and also for faculty. I would say, it is competitive. Do not see that, like, if this is your first year applying and you don't get it, please don't see that as a reflection on you. I think it's ultimately just, there's only so many spots. So I would say keep applying. And we want everyone to apply. We want to have the most robust pool to choose from. We would like for everyone to make our jobs really, really hard in terms of that selection process.
Okay, well, looking forward to it. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, you too. Okay, Aline, is that right?
Yeah, you got it.
Yes. I'm like 3 for 4. So that's good.
Yeah, that's awesome. My question is, I know that the deadline is at noon, March 27th. Is there another deadline for our recommenders to submit their letters, or is the deadline also the same for that as well?
The and I are going to go through it as soon as the deadline hits, like that next week. And so it should be all complete by the 27th.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And Natalie, correct me if I'm wrong. The letters will be given to you, I think, and you submit them, right? Or do the submitters, or Wesley, if you know the answer to that, because as a former RELI co-chair, you might know as well.
I think they have to upload them to the application. Yeah, so if you scroll down to the bottom, you upload your letters as like a PDF.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so you can set the deadline for your person to say my deadline is the 27th, so your deadline is the 25th or something like that effect, right?
I got you. Thank you.
Do we
Any
have
any other questions? Oh, sorry,
We were on the same page, Scott.
Scott and I are happy to kind of hang back, and so we can stop the recording, and if people have something that's specific to them, we're happy to hang back and answer those questions. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing your apps.
And on behalf of the Pro Devo committee, I do want to thank our RELI co-chairs for having this space for those that maybe could not have attended CHO or just maybe wanted a refresher. So thank you both for creating this time. And this information will soon be posted to CHO's YouTube channel and to our Spotify account. So thank you, RELI.